So good afternoon. It is good to be with you. Humbled to be amongst some amazing companies, some outrageous thought leaders in this space. My name is Bradd Busick. I come from Seattle. Raise a hand of Seattle folks. I saw a ton of Seahawks. Yeah, I see you. There's one of us. Seattle right now is going through an outrageous change. We are the most craned city in the country. So Amazon is a massive part of that, but also Costco, Starbucks, Boeing, you name it. And we service a lot of those customers. So a little bit about McDonnell-Miller. We help build buildings. Once we build those buildings, we help service them. How many of you have a balcony on your hotel room here? How many went out on that balcony? Yeah, there's a unit out there. That thing is running. When it breaks, they call McDonnell-Miller. And we come and we fix that. Aside from servicing those buildings, we also put controls in buildings. So think about, Nest for your house. We have really, really large and complicated control systems for campuses, all the way to small control systems for small and medium-sized businesses that help tell the health of your building so that you know it's sick, when you need to know it's sick, as opposed to when you're walking into a foot of water, as the previous panel alluded to. We are also in the midst, as an industry, undergoing an outrageous cultural transformation, and we're moving to all things digital. So much of what we talked about today has really been around this concept of change, adoption, or what I call organizational change management, something that has been written about since the 70s when Cotter started writing about change management, and something that we continually get wrong in IT. And how I know we're getting it wrong is when I hear statements like, IT needs to wait for the business to bring an idea to us. No, IT needs to get off the sidelines and go to the business with ideas, so long as that idea is actually going to solve something important. And so what I want to talk about today is that journey that we've been going through. 2.5 years ago, I came from a company called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Seattle, Washington. The entire purpose is to give away $4 billion with a B dollars a year responsibly. And similar to my friends at Google, we got to play in every space. Wearables, machine learning. We were on the bleeding edge because we got to beta a lot of stuff before it came out, and a lot of it didn't work. Leaving that space and coming to the industrial vertical was fascinating. And I have this picture because this is actually representative of what our service desk looked like. The door was closed. There was a camera above, and the door was locked. And I literally, I swear to you, on the first day of work, I didn't have the cipher code, so I knocked on the door. They cracked it open. I said, "Why is the door closed?" "Oh, we're trying to do our work." And I physically kicked the door open, a la my soccer days. It hit the magnetic thing, and it's been stuck open ever since. We changed that team's name from the help desk to the service desk because the role of IT is to serve the business. It's to enable the business. It's to help grow the business. If you're in IT, and you haven't started conversations about generating revenue with your business partners, you need to start having a different conversation with your IT department. No longer can IT sit on the sidelines and play a role of just fixing your phone and your computer. And so I love this quote from my former boss, and I'm not going to drain it, but it essentially sets the stage for this. Technology is going to enable really good processes. Technology is also going to make really bad processes worse. And this isn't something that, Bill threw out at a summit. No, he actually talks this way in meetings. And so we use this as a way to set the stage for what we call our capability roadmaps. Now, the word roadmap's super cliche, and I realize that, and I'm happy to get into the philosophical dialogue over shots of tequila tonight with you. But the idea is this. What if your IT department could lead the business through a capability roadmap? Capability isn't, hey, we need to go put in SAP, or hey, we need to go put in Oracle, or hey, we need to go put in PlanView. No, capability is, hey, accounting, where are your biggest pain points? Hey, service, hey, construction, hey, legal. And as a thought partner, as a business partner, step back and take an enterprise look at the capabilities that are being asked for across the entire enterprise. What's fascinating when you have this conversation is you quickly start to understand from their words, not IT's, the relative importance of those capabilities versus the current state maturity. right? So we're not gonna go invest a bunch of money in something that we're already good at. But man, if something's really important and we're terrible at it, we are gonna double down on IT. I'm gonna help you move that needle so that when we do this again next year, we're in a much better spot. And so a couple of themes emerged from our capability roadmap discussion so that we could shine light from IT on the current state processes that, one, were working well and help enhance those, but two, shine light on processes that weren't working well so that we can actually enhance those and make those better. These three themes emerged: protect the business, generate revenue, and improve customer service. Everything we do as IT is wrapped up into these three buckets, and of course that rabbit hole goes deep into each one of these, but I want to talk about our journey in wearables and as well as virtual reality and some things that we've stubbed our toe on. There's nothing worse than coming home from one of these conferences, by the way, and not having anything to share, as in like a takeaway. So I want to give you something. I want to give you the lessons that we learned, the mistakes that we made, the tools, the frameworks, the techniques. It's all yours. This is why contact information is in that fancy app. And shout out, by the way, to BrainXchange. It's an awesome app. I want you to reach out to me. Anything I'm going to show you today is yours, and I think that's how these conferences should be run. So as we stepped back and looked at how all these capabilities fit together, it was really, really clear that we had an incredibly cool opportunity to start to leverage wearable tech in our service division. I have 115 service techs. We have the largest service base in the country. So all the buildings that we go and support and keep alive, that's a really big deal. It's a big deal from a revenue perspective, so that when the new construction economy dips, we maintain that residual base with our service base, right? So ideally, IT helps grow that and keeps that alive, which helps us stay flush in a down economy. So wearable tech emerged, and so the very first thing that we wanted to do was get after this concept that I loved Kelly Thresher's quote from the last panel. Where are you, Kelly? She hit it on the head. She's like, man, we have an issue with training. Like, people are turning over. This is a quote from a CEO that I had the privilege to spend some time with about the turnover rate or the skills gap happening in construction. The old guys are retiring, and man, the young ones are morons. I'm not going to attribute him, but man, I loved this quote because it represents the current state and the fear, frankly, the fear that these techs who know their customers, know the equipment, are about to retire. And so as I hear that as a CIO, my job is, man, I'm going to dive into that. How do I protect the business? And so as you look in your own business, and you heard it with the USPS, you heard it with Walmart, the skills gap is a really big deal, and it's a big deal particularly in construction. So I'm not going to drain all these. You guys can see the slides, and more importantly, you see it in your own companies. Skills gap for me, because I'm a business guy that just happens to be living in IT, means decreased revenue. And I don't want to be responsible for standing and admiring the problem of a 20% decrease in our growth. I'm part of the leadership team of this company. They brought me on to help grow it, not shrink it. So what are we going to do? So we thought about a way to capture that knowledge, retain that knowledge, and ideally generate more revenue. And so we partnered with a company called XOI. XOI is a wearable tech company out of Nashville that frankly, all of us, and I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, for all the people that have worked with software partners and been burned, hardware partners that promised something and been burned. I used to have hair before I started that work, and no, I don't. It's super refreshing to find a partner that their subject matter expertise is in our space. They have over 30 deployments across the country, Boston to Seattle, just in our industry in service and construction. So I thought, well, shoot, let's dive in. So I looked their CEO across the table in the eye, shook my hand, and we started a pilot. Here's what was really, really fascinating about this. One, we used the roadmap data that the service department said was a pain point for them. So it wasn't IT saying, hey, let's bring wearables into the no, it was the business saying, IT, we have a problem with our knowledge gap, training, and a way to record what we're doing in a safe, regulated environment. And so we formed what we call success by design, meaning we developed a script. And the script essentially was, what does each tech do when they go out to the field? In a standard, repeatable way. It doesn't mean that Billy Bob doesn't have his own flair and he doesn't shake hands with the CEO of Starbucks when he's out there and kisses babies. We want that. That's the personality of our techs. Our techs are the heartbeat of our company. It's frankly what keeps us in the companies we're in from a retention standpoint. But we worked with these guys and XOI to say, what is the rhythm, order, and discipline that we want to instill every time we go out to a site? And so I'm going to show you a sample here in a second, but when we arrive in Capture, we want our guys to say, hey, this is Bradd Busick. I'm here in front of Amazon, building 8, and we're about ready to do X. If he gets stuck, I don't want to have to roll another truck. Why? Because Amazon pays more for that. 2, it doesn't do a great job of optimizing my workforce, because that tech that I had deployed going to Costco now has to get rerouted and go to a different spot, and it completely screws up our dispatch. So what if I gave this person a capability to say real time, hey, Aaron, can you give me a hand here? I'm looking at this carrier unit. It looks like it's leaking refrigerant. And what we're finding, back to the original quote, the old ones are retiring and the young ones are morons, it gives a chance for our young techs to get the expertise from the veteran tech back at home. Oh, and by the way, we're also recording that. And the metadata that we're using is tagging that. So anytime I need to understand all the problems we're experiencing across our portfolio with carrier, I literally type in the word carrier, and I'm just littered with videos and training from the recordings that are taking place from our own techs. Even better, going to the last bullet on this, recap and sign off, our customers get this video. So has anyone ever had a rodent problem at their house? Just raise their hand. I see people reluctantly no, everyone has freaking rodent problems. It's part of living in our country where we live. It's like this. If someone came to my house and said to my amazing wife, hey, Mrs. Busick, you have rats in your attic. First question is well, how bad is it? And the second question is, how much does it cost? But if that person came and said, Mrs. Busick, here's a video of the chewed insulation, the urine-infested newspaper, and all the little rat babies that are up in your attic, my wife couldn't get her card out fast enough. We'd be swiping, squares would be flying. Same exact concept. And the ROI for this proves it. We are integrating this video, these findings, in the call summary reports for the customer's review. So let's check out a sample. In a second. The idea behind our deployment for this was kind of twofold. How many people have seen the Kubler-Ross change curve? All right, for those that aren't raising their hand, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, renowned author, in 1969 came out with a book called Death and Grieving. And these are the stages of grieving as we go through the death curve. And what's really interesting is that a lot of times this is now associated with IT deployments. And so we wanted to embrace this. So at McDonnell-Miller, when we roll out new tech, I actually throw this up on the wall. And we come out with a concept with the business and say, hey, what do you think about wearable technology? And we say, grab a sticky dot, put it on the change curve, tell us where you are. It's an amazing way to get insight from your own colleagues without them feeling like you have a gun to their head to hey, so is this working for you? Let them give you the data. You guys can roll it up on the back end and do a before and after. It's a really awesome change mechanism to one, let them feel heard, but two, figure out if you're actually making progress. I will say from a McDonnell-Miller perspective, we were all over the board with this tech. We had some that were in and some that were this feels kind of odd to me. Now, 115 techs later, not only are we in, but our numbers are showing it. We also set up a crazy amount of training, right? Road shows, scenario training, outdoor training, indoor training, just to make sure that everybody had a chance to actually use this in a safe environment before we dropped it out in the field. I think my coaching would be, if I had to do one thing over, I would have done more of this. I felt like as IT, we did an awesome job training it up. If I had to do it again, we would double down and take more of a intentional approach with this. So where are we at year to date? We first deployed this to 78 technicians just to get a sense. I'm not going to walk through every one of these numbers, but the one that I want to show you that I'm the most proud of is the number on the right, our 4,563 shares. What does a share mean? A share means every time they take a picture or a video of an asset, it's automatically integrated into their call summary report, and the customer gets that. So when the customer gets it, they get a video that takes them right to their portal. And this is a sample of what one of those videos look like.
Travis with MacDonald here at Costco Data Center. Just raised the chilled water set point to 54 degrees at the customer's request. We ramped up and now we're running at 54 degree outlet. Thank you for choosing McDonnell-Miller.
That was a $6,000 ticket. Why is video important? Well, if you believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 10,000 words, right? If you can give this to customers, let them go into the decision makers with, hey, check out this video. It's a much more compelling sell than, hey, the facilities guys say we need to replace that $30,000 rooftop unit. But if they see the video of the rooftop unit and it's leaking refrigerant all over the ceiling, well, then it's a more compelling sell. So we've taken the effort to integrate this and make this part of our daily rhythm, and our customers get these reports every time we go out and service the site. We're also extending the capability. So the glasses is just one part of it. We have the mobile app deployed to our sales staff. We have the GoPros deployed to our safety staff, literally recording site walks. We want all of that data stored, tagged, and searchable so that our customers know what's happening on their site. So we're continuing to push this capability across the company and have been thrilled with the results. Our timeline is here. I'm happy to talk in depth with you guys about it afterwards. We're continually learning, right? Every time we break some of the technology, we go back to a partner and say, hey, what do you think about X? And they're incredibly quick to help resolve our issues, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about in terms of lessons learned. That was getting the right partner is the key. So what's next? Well, the idea of the democratization of this data, right? If you think about all the data we're gathering and all my colleagues across the country are gathering, suddenly we have a really powerful value prop when we go to our manufacturers. And we can actually start to supplement that data with other data. Like, hey, did you know that when it gets below 64 degrees in this part of the country, train, the following things happen with your units. This type of data has never been used and has never been sourced this way. So we're really excited to help lead in some of that. And finally, in terms of what's next with this, in terms of our subscription, we are excited to actually put this capability in the hands of our customer so that if they want to reach out and dial a tech, similar to dial a doc right now, if they want to dial a tech, they can. And I'm not going to charge them a 3-digit fee for going out and rolling a truck, but I might charge them half that so that they can take calls anywhere, anytime. And that's a great revenue model. It also makes sure that we deploy the right person to the right job. We don't want to send out a journeyman for an entry-level fix. Again, going back to that workforce automation piece. So on the wearable side, that's something that we're doing on the service front. The other part of our capability roadmap was really around new construction. How do we actually help sell? And so we, IT, wanted to partner with the business to help us, one, become a little more innovative, particularly in a market that demands it, right? Seattle is the modern day Silicon Valley, no offense, Google. So how did we do that? Brock, in the previous panel, brought up a sweet example. He's like, well, the use of VR is really interesting because only one person can experience it in a meaningful way. And this is the typical use of wearable tech in the VR space right now for conference rooms. And I sit in these meetings all the time. Hey, can you pass that headset, Paul? That'd be great. We thought, well, what if McDonnell-Miller could come up with a way to do something different and innovative? And so I want to throw out an acronym. We've heard a lot of them today. It's called CBNU. It stands for, it's cool, but it's not useful. And the previous panel talked a lot about that. Like, well, that's cool, but so if it's interesting but not actionable, if it's cool but not useful, it's not something that I wanted to sponsor at McDonnell-Miller. So we landed on a solution that we think is pretty outrageous that blends both the user design and the back end, or hub and spoke, if you will, so that IT's happy and the business is happy and the results actually net us more customers. So we call it Mac Reality. It's powered by a company in Seattle called Visual Vocal. It essentially is this. We have 75 engineers and all they do is generate outrageous 3D and 4D documents. And when we walk into a proposal, we walk in with these, lots of them. And we hand these glasses out to everyone around the table. And within about 8 seconds, we're fully immersed in the McDonnell-Miller drawing that we're going to pitch. And this is the box that we typically roll in with. What's really funny, of course, is as soon as you give a bunch of decision makers an opportunity to get into virtual reality and they can all see themselves in the meeting, it's like 30 seconds of kindergarten. Everybody's like, oh my God, I see you. Well, that's cool, but it actually is a revenue generator, right? So the idea that I can overlay hotspots or voice hotspots to say, hey, Aaron, what you're seeing right here is an opportunity for us to actually put a rooftop unit here instead of here. And they can hear my voice and then watch that rooftop unit or that scene appear in VR is a really, really powerful way to sell, particularly if there's variations in what you're trying to sell. And so to do that with one person is like, well, God, that's cool, but what if you could host a meeting and do it with 15 people, all in a room, all at once, with the click of a button? And that's what we're doing with Visual Vocal. It extends far beyond just sales proposals. It actually, for us, goes out into the field. When we are designing a mechanical room, we're using this capability for our techs out in the field to say, hey, so what you're looking at right here is XYZ wall. Look over to the left. Where do you think this thing would fit best? And using this solution, they're able to navigate the room, up, down, full spherical perspective, and determine the best fit for that based on the drawing that they want to see. So we're really excited about the direction of this and excited to partner. So in closing the recap, I've talked about XOI, I talked about Visual Vocal. Choose the right dance partner. If you're going to invest in these capabilities, and invest meaning with money, you want to make sure you're dancing with a partner that's going to be there if things go sideways. And XOI and Visual Vocal have been that for McDonnell-Miller. Use data and not emotions. Use the capability roadmap to drive what your business partners want. Don't go to the business and say, hey, I think you should have this. What if you went the other way and actually used data to drive? And then finally, change doesn't happen overnight. As you walk people through that change curve, be mindful that everybody's change journey is different. So with that, we'll turn it over for questions.
Great. Brad, great job. So we've got a couple minutes. We'll take a few questions. Do we have hands out there? We got mics on the floor. Let me ask you while they're getting the mic to folks. This is, you're doing stuff that's kind of blowing people away. You talked about how to take something back, right? Somebody who's here and just saw this, can you distill it down and say, look, if I were you, if I knew what I knew, here's where I would start, here's how I would go at it. You talked about the right partner.
Yeah.
But maybe just put a little finer point on that so they can actually get back to their shop and do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And this doesn't come down to templates, but if you don't have a roadmap methodology that you employ and you need one, I'm happy to give that and share that knowledge. This is stuff that we took from the Gates Foundation and developed there, and it's industry leading. So I would start there, but also share failures and successes. Yes, we've got a bunch of exhibitors that are out there, and I think that's important. But as a partner, wouldn't you want to know before you spend 40 grand if the solution worked or not? I would. And so I want us to be more collaborative and share those failures and successes. And I think everybody's reluctant to say, like, well, we kind of stubbed our toe because of pride or ego.
So it kind of sounds like there's an opportunity maybe to get some community.
Yeah, some community of practice.
And learn from each other. Do we have a question out in the audience? I think everybody's brain is saturated.
Yeah, it's time to eat.
From the discussion.
I agree. It's good to be with you.
It is time to eat. We're going to be back here precisely at 2 o'clock. Get back in a couple minutes early. We got some great content this afternoon. But once again, let's thank Brad. This was an awesome presentation.
Thank you.